Hello guys, and welcome to the third session of the tutorial. In this session our motto will be to connect our application with MySQL server. So you need to have MySQL workbench, or you can download any database, like you can download maybe Oracle, or you can proceed with any database, but I am using MySQL here. We will be giving some values in the URL, like whoever is a new user, they will have to register it and save the data to the database. And in the fourth session we will have an application looking something like this, in which we will be having a new registration page, and we have a functionality to view all the users. So whatever the users available in the database, that we can see here, and we can register a new user. So for example, so when I click register, the user will be registered and it will navigate to the home page. And when we go to all users, so whatever the user we have registered, that will be displayed here, and we can modify the user from here, or we can also delete the user from here. So first we will focus on our third session, in which we will be taking a username, password, all the registration details from the user, and we will be persisting it into our database. So let's start. So this is our controller class. I want to have one more controller, separate controller, like this is a REST controller here, and this is our main controller here. So I want to separate all these two controllers here first. So we will go to make a new class, and that class we will name it as REST controller. Click on finish. So it's a REST controller, so we need to specify it. So REST controller, you have to import the package, and it will come like this. And you need to have a method. So this method will return and we need to provide the mapping for it. Get mapping and addressing. Okay, so and what we have in the application controller, we can delete this thing. So now the response body, we have specified here that it's a REST controller, so we don't have to give response body, it will understand it. I want to separate everything from our application controller, so I want to remove this, save it, and this is our REST controller. So let's try to run it. So it's running. Let's go here and we'll paste the URL. And this is home page. So now what we want to do, we need to save the user into the database. For that we will have a method string save user, and we will say like the user is saved. The return will be the return will be user is saved. Okay, but where is this user? We need to create a user class which will be having all the objects like username, name, first name, second name, age, password will be having. So for that we will be creating one more package, and that package will be naming it as model. So we have created a model package. So now in this model package we'll be making one class, and we will name that class as user. Okay, click on finish. So this user will be having some parameters. For anything which is to be saved in the database, we need to specify that class as an entity class. So entity class will be in persistence, Java X persistence. So, but we have not uploaded that dependency in the form.xml. You can download it from Maven repository. Springboot starter data JPA that you have to go, and you can select any version. You have to copy it, and you have to just go to form.xml, and you can paste it anywhere. You can, if you are getting any problem with the version here, you can delete the version, and your parent version will select automatically what version to use. Now we have this entity class. Now in the entity class we have some fields like private, int, id, string, username, first name, last name, age, and password. So for all these fields we need to have setters and getters. So for getting setters and getters, you have to go to your source, right click and go to source, generate getters and setters, select all the fields, and you have got the getters and setters. Also you have to have a constructor with all these fields. Go to source and generate constructor using fields. ID I don't want to have as this. I will make it as a primary key and auto increment, so I don't want to change anything from the ID, and I want to keep this public. And where I want it after password. Click OK, and we have got our constructor. Also we want to have one more thing, that is one more method, toString method. Go to source and generate toString for all the fields. Press OK and we got one more thing. We need to specify that which is our primary key. So we will give @id. So this id is our primary key. So I have given @id. So this id and this id is not the same. This id is coming from JPA, JavaX persistence. Okay, this is to identify that this in every table. Suppose we have a table, user table. So in every table we need to have a unique identifier, and that is called a primary key. So we need to make it as a primary. Okay, if you want username to be primary, you have to give @id here. What else to be done here? So for now we will be doing this much only. We need to have something which will persist our data into our database, and that thing we call it as a business class, or we can call it as a service class, where all the things will be happening. So we need to make a package, and we will name that package as services, and in that services we'll have a class, and the class name will be user service. So we need to write some logic, and that logic will persist the data into our database. We have got this service. So what we can do, this is a service class, so also we need to specify that it's a service class. So we have to give this annotation service, and also we have to give transactional. So because we are performing the transaction with the database, so we need to make it transactional. Now let's make a method which will save our data into our database. Public void, let's say save my user. Okay, this will save. Just give a command like save. What you have to save? User, or save user. But what is this save? Save is a method. What is this user? User is our this user. But this user, how it can be available here? In this method we need to pass our user, and this is our user class, this one, and this is the instance of that user, and we are using it here. Okay, let's import this. It's from the model, so it's imported. Now what's this save method? This save is a method which is coming from interface, and that interface is called CRUD repository. Okay, so that we have to implement that method somewhere. So let's implement that method first. Just go to new and create a new package, and the package name will be, you can give repository. And in this repository we will make an interface, and that interface we will name it as user repository. And we can also add extend interface. I want to extend my CRUD repository. This is coming from Spring Data JPA. Just press OK, finish. So this will give you an interface user repository, and in this user repository extends CRUD repository, and here we need to pass our entity class. Entity class we need to provide here, and integer. So this we need to import it, and that's it. We are done with this one. Now we have a user repository which will be having extending a CRUD repository, and this CRUD repository is having the save method. So in the user service, when we are going to use this save method, we need to use it from user repository. So but user repository is not available here. So what we can do, we can just go here and we can create an instance of user repository. Final. Private final user repository. Okay. To have a constructor of this class. So we are done with this one. Now we will use the instance of this user repository interface here. Dot. Now we have got one save method, and we will save our entity user. Okay, that's it. We are done with our user service. Now we need to go to our REST controller. The REST controller, we have to save this user, right? To give a mapping to the REST controller at the rate get mapping, and in this mapping I will say save user double quotes. So now we have to save this user. So how we can save this user? Like this controller will contact with the user service, and the user service will take help from user repository to get the data from the user and just save it into our database. So for that we need to have this user class here. Sorry, we have to put something called @request parameter. So this request parameter will ask the input from the user, string username, first name, last name, age, and request param, string, password. Okay. So user goes to new user, and this will take some parameters: username, first name, last name, age, and password. Import your user class. Now, using the service user service save my user, this method we will be doing the operation. So we need to call our user service here. But user service, how it can be available in this class? Private user service, user service, and just give @auto add. So instance of this one, this user service is now available in this class, and we can use that user service dot, which method we have in this here, save my user. We created one method, right? Now how many parameters it will take? It will take one parameter, this user. Select that user and hit save. So we have got this. Now one more thing we need to do. We are done with this part. We need to go to our MySQL. We need to have a table. Create a table. The table name you can give any. Suppose I've given my table, and in this table we need to have some fields. we need to give our table name here. In our entity class, we need to provide our table name also. Table and name equals to what name we have given? My table. Now everything is done. We have to configure our database related things that we can do in application.properties. Just go here, and some predefined codes are there which we have to by heart it. Will not waste time. I will just copy and paste it. So Spring Data Source URL will be your, it will be same only. The thing is, here we have to change our database name. Techno tab YouTube. Okay. Now username you can give whatever is your username, password your password, and the class name if you are using a MySQL, this will be your driver class name. If you are using Oracle, you have to choose your driver class name. Also some Hibernate related dialect we have to select, like we are using a MySQL, so MySQL 5 dialect will come here, and logging level debug. When this thing is done, we have to save it. Now let's run our application and what error we are getting, let's see. Let's go to our browser. This is working fine. Save user. Save user, which will be taking some parameters like username, ampersand, first name, last name, age, and password. Let's press enter, and we have got something. JPA entity manager for transaction nested, exception in Java X persistence, unable to acquire JDBC connection. Let's go back and check here what's the problem. So guys, we have found why we have got this error. This is because we have not added a dependency which will connect our application with MySQL. That is a MySQL dependency that you can download it again from event repository. MySQL connector. This dependency you have to download and you have to use it. Let's go back to our application. Open pom.xml. You can just download the dependency and add it here. So I have got MySQL dependency. Now again let's try to run it. Go back here. Enter. And user is saved. So let's go back and check it into our table. And yes, the user is saved. Let's try to add one more user name. Let's save everything. Let's leave everything as it is. User is saved. Go back to your MySQL, refresh it, and it's coming back. So we have successfully connected our application with the database. In the next session, instead of passing data from the URL, we will directly have a JSP page. In that we will pass the values, and that will be used to save in the database. Thanks for watching, and do provide your valuable feedback. Thank you.